So, Victoria, thank you so much for meeting with me today. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to interview with me. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Happy Friday.
Yes, happy Friday. Well, as I said, thank you so much for taking time to speak with me today. We're just going to talk a little bit about the part-time MBA, your experience in the program, and then also your experience just learning online. Obviously, this is a little bit of a different time than everyone was planning for 2020. So we just want to get a little bit more insight into your experience with moving fully online and kind of how things have changed since the beginning of the year for you in terms of an educational setting. So to begin, kind of give me a little bit of background about yourself, and then we'll hop into kind of why you chose Pepperdine, and just go from there.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for asking me to join you. Really appreciate this opportunity. Um, so I am a working mother with two daughters. I had a baby during the pandemic, so my youngest is 7 months old. And I've been working for the past 15 years. I graduated in my undergrad in 2005. So I have 15 years of work experience under my belt, and now I'm done having kids. And I got to a bit of a standstill in my career, and I thought using this opportunity that everything's kind of gone virtually online to dive into my MBA. And honestly, I don't know if I could have done it with my children being so young any other way. So I think that the virtual format's actually been incredibly beneficial to me.
Awesome, good to hear that, and congratulations on having a baby. That's I'm sure even more difficult during a pandemic. So props to you. One of my coworkers actually had the same experience, so it's interesting. I have much respect for you guys because I'm sure that right now that's definitely not the most easy thing on top of already having a child.
It's interesting because really when you have a baby, you're kind of stuck inside anyway. So
Hmm.
during the big lockdown, like back in March, April, May, she was born in the middle of April. So all of that kind of, other than like not really being able to go to the grocery store, was kind of normal for having a newborn because there's not much you could do anyway. You're not getting any sleep. It's just
Right.
about sleeping and eating and all that. So
Right. Well, congratulations to you. And I just wish your
thank
baby
you.
great health as well. So, you kind of covered a little bit, but tell me, what really drew you to Pepperdine Graziadio? Obviously, you have a lot of work experience under your belt, as you mentioned. What drew you to Graziadio and specifically the part-time MBA program?
I really enjoyed the flexibility that's offered for this program. It is for fully working people who are working full time. So it gives you the flexibility of night classes and just taking one or two classes at a time. And also, it gives you 7 years to complete the program. Not that I want to wait 7 years to complete this program, I absolutely don't. But because I have a family and because I'm a little bit older, you never really know what's going to happen. So it just gives you that flexibility. And also, everyone I was talking to, with the recruiters and everyone who reached out to me, they were incredibly helpful in regards to the resources available at Pepperdine. And they really won me over just by talking about everything that Pepperdine has to offer for this program. So as far as like student success and the online libraries, the writing labs, even the interesting apps that they have, like
Hmm.
Sunvelo, that they have just to kind of set your mind at ease, and and all of those are really set out to offer you support and success during this program. And not only when you're in the program, but also getting you a job, setting you up for success after you graduate. And it really aligned with where I was in my career and the blockers I was experiencing in my career. And I
Hmm.
felt that it was a perfect program for me to get where I need to go in my career moving forward.
Right. Awesome. Great. Thank you. Great answer. And yeah, I agree. I think the resources definitely are beneficial, especially during this time. Having those kind of extra things, I think, are very helpful. So thank you for that. Moving forward, how has your transition been? I know you kind of covered a little bit already from in person to a virtual environment.
Well, I didn't really have an experience recently being a student in an in-person environment.
Hmm.
So I just really jumped in full force being virtual. But I was given a really great setup um, to this experience. What I mean by that is for the past 2 years, I've worked for a startup tech company, and they brushed me up on how to, work with Google Drive and work my way around Zoom. And we really, the technology that we're offering in the company that I work for, it's for situations like these. It's to make working from home quicker and easier. Um, and it kind of is the forefront of technology of the future, I feel.
Hmm.
So, it's been 15 years since I've studied, and I think that it was just kind of a really, since I've been in college, but I think it was really kind of a natural progression that I were to be part of this company, um, and then learn to work virtually as part of this company, because there was definitely adjustments there, and then move from that to, in addition to working virtually, being a virtual student as well.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that I agree with you. I think that I've been I like to read a lot, as I mentioned earlier, and I've noticed a lot of just technology companies, a lot of stocks for like Zoom and things like that are doing really well right now because it is
Yeah,
kind of leaning towards the future of technology. And I think for certain generations, it's preferred because it's kind of already familiar. And I think that what I really liked about working from home is just having that flexibility to kind of multitask in a way. Like I can run laundry or something like that while I'm working. And then on top of
absolutely.
that, us living in California, like you save a lot of time, which I think is really nice. Commute wise, I'm like, I don't miss that 1 hour commute. So I definitely think that as you said, there's a lot of forward moving trends with this that there's going to be, I think, a little bit of a shift in terms of what we see from a learning environment, even just working as well.
Absolutely. And just building on that, it's really hard when you have so much responsibility in your life. And as you get older and have a family and your career, to shift from one of those priorities to another. But like you mentioned, working virtually, you can handle all the things you need to handle in the house or family, and you can shift pretty quickly back and forth. And I just feel like the amount I can get done in one day versus taking an hour to commute, and
Mm,
then taking time to commute from work to school and then school to home. I can be downstairs eating dinner with my 3-year-old, put my baby to bed, and then be in class in 5 minutes. So
yeah.
it really compacts your potential of what you can accomplish in one day.
Yeah, it definitely feels like you're like, wow, I have so much extra time now because it was about a 2 hour commute for me every day. And now that I have that
Oh
time back,
wow,
like you said, you can do, you're like, wow, like just all this extra time, I don't know what to do with myself. So it's kind of one of those things where you can really capitalize on some other opportunities, which I think is beneficial because you have more of that time back. You know, they always say time is very valuable. So it's good to kind of have that back, which is nice.
absolutely.
So moving forward, I know that you kind of already covered on this a little bit. Has there been any adaptations that you've made as a student? Obviously, you've been in the working world for a while. So has there been anything that you've kind of had to adapt to going back to the learning environment, not even just virtually, but just in general? Like, do you have like a more of a set schedule now? Do you have a process of kind of how you try and balance everything?
Yeah, I think that it's just staying on top of the workload and the responsibilities from all the different aspects of my life, um, and and blocking out time on the calendar just make sure that everything gets done. The one thing that I've really learned through this program too is that you can't be 100% in every aspect of your life at all times. There has to be different shifting of focuses and shifting of responsibilities. Um, and it's just been really key adding one more thing on my plate to block off time here and there to accomplish everything that needs to get accomplished so you don't become overwhelmed. Everyone told me when I told them I wanted to get my MBA. First of all, they told me I was crazy because I have so many other things going on in my life.
Hmm.
But they also mentioned that the workload is incredibly substantial. And I don't think that you realize exactly how much work it's going to be until you're sitting there kind of the first day of class and they're like, oh, by the way, this is what you have to do. And you're like, oh my
Right.
God, how am I going to do it? Um, I mentioned earlier that there's an app that Pepperdine kind of gives to all of the students called Sunbello, and it's like it's almost like Headspace. It's kind of a
Hmm.
like a meditation app. Um, that app has really helped me refocus just my mindset and my priorities. So instead of looking at homework and all the things that I have to do as um, as tasks I need to check off of my list, I've been able to kind of change my mindset to think about those things, about how I can really implement them in my life. And it's really helped me want to get those things done, want to
Right.
accomplish them, and want to implement them in my life, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Yeah, and I agree. I think that I'm actually a big fan of Headspace. I think it's great for sleep, and I think that's one thing that's been really cool about kind of just the digital age is there's a lot of AI focused technology. Headspace, like you mentioned, Sunbello. There's also uh, BetterHelp, all those different types of apps that really can help you prioritize and focus. And I think that's needed right now because we're in that digital space of there's so many things pinging back and forth that you're like
Yeah.
constantly having fighting for your attention. So I think it's good to really refocus your priorities. So thank you for mentioning that. I have to check out Sunbello. I think we have that as well as an employee. So I'll have to see about that. It sounds like a great resource to use.
Yeah.
Um, so moving forward, you kind of already covered this a little bit, but so from kind of what I've gathered, it seems like you enjoy learning virtually. And then, are there things that you think maybe if you were in person right now that you would benefit from more, things that you maybe miss about being in person? Myself, I'm very social, so I kind of miss that face-to-face aspect. But as we mentioned, I like the time-saving aspect of being virtual.
Absolutely. I'm a little daunted by the knowledge that it will be not virtual pretty soon. I'm both excited and a little bit like, okay, now how am I going to handle all of this when we actually go back to in person? And like I said, it's really helped me bounce around from one thing to another and be able to get everything done in one day. But it, I like face-to-face interaction as well, and I think that although technology has really allowed for me to still feel connected to my um, my fellow students, even in breakout rooms and virtual settings, I think that, and I've just been imagining, next year on campus running into someone who I've met while being virtual, and it just kind of being a little like, you know,
Mhm.
meeting of the minds in a different location. And um, so I think that there's a little something that's missing there, a little something organic that happens when you're when you're sharing a physical space with one another. Um, but I know I'm not going to be in this program completely virtually. So I know I'm going to have that experience eventually.
Right, right. Yeah, and I think that to your point, I think that sometimes like the organic thing is what I personally that was one of my favorite things about college was just really having that social interaction because you also can really build relationships in college to then benefit your future in terms of maybe working with someone down the road or someone starts a business and you end up being one of their employees. So I think that having that stuff in person is really great, but with the technology, I think it's good that we're still able to stay connected and you don't necessarily not know anything about someone else because at least you're able to meet with them virtually.
Absolutely. And even like, I think the week before class started, there was already a Slack channel set up with all of the students in the class on there. And we talked to each other during class, and there's different breakout groups in Slack. So we're just so fortunate enough to have the technology in place to allow for this to happen. It's unfortunate that it's happening, but it's fortunate that it's happening in a time where we can actually deal with it and we can still be social to some extent.
Right, I agree. I love Slack. That's like one of my all-time favorite apps. I had never used it until I started working here, and I was like, "Oh, this thing is like amazing but dangerous at the same time because it's
And yeah.
it's such a well-designed app, but at the same time, it makes it almost too easy to be available. So it's one of those things where you kind of have to learn how to use it effectively because you can get like so lost in all the things that you can do with Slack.
Exactly, yeah.
And then moving forward, kind of to the last question, do you have any advice or suggestions for being successful as a student when learning completely online. You kind of already covered this a little bit with just making sure to prioritize your time. Are there maybe any tips or tricks or advice that you have that maybe are a little bit unorthodox just to be successful when learning virtually versus learning in person?
Honestly, it's what really hooked me to the program to begin with. I think that the resources available to Pepperdine are there to make you successful. That everyone, everyone available, from the advisors to the, I think I mentioned this, writing lab, student success, at the career lab. I have a job, and I already scheduled time with someone from the career lab just to kind of look over my resume and talk about kind of what programs I'm interested in, what classes I should take to where I want to um, take my career in the future and what I want to get out of Pepperdine. You can still do all of that virtually. That's still available to you. I think it's almost quicker and easier since I can just do it right now, and I can jump on Zoom with someone instead of trying to find their office and sitting down with them. Like, it's just so fast. I'm just amazed about how many resources there are. I really think that's a huge plus to this program. And like I said before, it's really about the mindset of like, you need to really take everything you can from what you're learning, instead of thinking about this program as being a means to an end and just about an avenue to get your MBA. Because at the end of the day, that diploma, when you hold it in your hand, it's not going to mean anything if you don't have the education and the information that you've gathered throughout your time here to back that up. So I really think that you get what you put into it.
Right. Yeah, and that's great advice. I think that you need to absorb the material because that's what you're there for. So why not like actually try and learn something?
And everyone is here to help you succeed. No one's here to like try and trick you into not getting a good grade, or to work you to the bone. Like, I feel like all the professors are here to help you succeed in a certain aspect of your life. And I think it's just a really good thing to keep in mind.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. So, we're about ready to close out. Are there any final thoughts or anything that you'd like to say? Any questions you have for me? You covered everything really great, and I know that you and I kind of already talked about the benefits of working in a virtual environment, learning in a virtual environment. Is there anything else that you'd like to say, or anything that might be relevant for people to know? Maybe that's a little bit, like I said, unorthodox, like tips, tricks, anything that maybe people could benefit from. If not, that's okay. But I just am curious.
I think I've really just covered everything. Again, I think it's time management, it's managing your mindset, and it's taking advantage of the time that you have and the resources that you have available to you.
Right. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much, Victoria, for meeting with me today. I wish you much success in your program, and I look forward to seeing what you accomplish in the future.
All right. Thanks, Sam. Thank you so much.